Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time of watching, this is your online English tutor at Banky's Corner. I've started a series on WAEC and NECO examination practices in English language. So check out my other videos on what I've been able to explain so far when attempting English language papers. In the last series, we looked at letter writing and informal type of letter. The scope, the features, and a model was looked at. So today we are moving on with the second type of letter, usually asked, which is formal letter. We have three structures to a letter, but like I said in my previous video, the first, the second is usually focused on. Questions are asked from those types of letter. The third one, which is the semi-formal, usually questions are not asked. So let's move on and see what type of letter is a formal letter. From what I've scripted here, we'll be looking at the scope, we'll be looking at the features, and many other things. Now let's look at the scope of informal letter. What type of letter is a formal letter? It's an official letter. It discusses official matters. That's a significant difference between a formal and an informal letter. Informal letter is written to relatives. It is personal, while formal discusses official matters. What are those types of official matters that can be seen or that we can see under formal letter? We have invitation letter to an occasion, query letter, we have requests, we have complaints, we have application, notification, business correspondence, and so many. These categories falls under the scope of official matters. You talk of query at work, you talk of business correspondence, and the likes. So when we are talking about formal letter, we are talking about scope of official matters. Let's look at the features of a formal letter. What are the features? Remember, in the last series, we talked about the three-part structure of a letter: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. It's still the same format we are going to follow under the formal letter that we are talking about. The structure still stands for this type of letter. Let's look at the introductory part of a formal letter. How is it formed? Under the introduction, we want to look at the tone. Remember, it's an official letter, so the tone differentiates from the informal. What do I mean by the tone? The tone also can be regarded to as the language. The tone is strictly official. So whatever expression you are using should be officially expressed. Since it is not a cordial letter or chatty, just like in informal, the tone of a formal letter is not chatty, does not really show cordiality, does not usually show friendship. That's why we call it official, strictly formal. So the tone is official, not chatty, not so friendly, no tone of cordiality in it. Also, the introductory part, we have the address. Remember, in the informal letter we only have one, but for the formal we have two addresses: the writer's address and the recipient's address. The recipient is the receiver of the letter. So two addresses, one at the right hand corner and the other at the extreme left hand corner. All this will be modeled out when we get to the stage of writing a formal letter or showing an excerpt of what a formal letter looks like. Tone under introduction is different, does not show friendship much, does not show cordiality. It is not a chatty type. Two addresses required. if you write one address for a formal letter, it shows that you are writing an informal letter. So your scores will be reduced for that. Remember the structure whereby English language essay is marked. We have the content, the organization, the expression, and the MA. Under the introductory parts of a formal letter, we have opening salutation. We have salutation also when in informal letter. The opening salutation also must be there. None of these stages must be omitted. None of these stages must be omitted. So we have the opening salutation, which of course begins with "Dear Sir." It begins with "Dear Sir," often begins with "Dear Sir" or "Madam," depending on the sex of the recipient. If it's a female, if it's a male. But usually it's better to present, if you are sure of who you are writing to, of course, just use the gender language, sir or ma. So the next under introductory part of a formal letter is the heading of the letter. A formal letter must project. It makes a statement about what to expect in the letter. It gives us a foresight into, okay, this is what this candidate is going to write about. And we have various forms of question depending on the question asked. How do you know the heading to write? Is from the questions given to you in your question paper. From the questions given to you, you know the heading. If it's a letter written to your local government chairman, or a letter to the head of a corporate organization, or a letter to your governor, or even to the president. So from the question, you are able to form the heading, which is very, very important. It must be written clearly, aptly put together, no ambiguity, no confusion. Make sure it states the beginning. It's like a statement of what the examiner is to expect when reading your papers. So the heading of the letter may be underlined. If all the letters are written in uppercase, then it should not be underlined. But if each word alone begins with a uppercase, then the entire heading must be underlined. So remember, if all the letters are in capital, do not underline. But if only the beginning of the word begins with capital or uppercase, then it should be underlined.